Hey, Jeff Lerner here, and in this video we are talking about smart passive income. This is something there's a lot of buzz about online. A guy named Pat Flynn, who's been a really successful online marketer, primarily affiliate marketer and podcast host, has a website called Smart Passive Income, and he's kind of coined this term. Clearly the term passive income has been around for a long time, but Pat Flynn came along and said, we're going to talk about smart passive income. And we'll get into what that is, but I'll just say this generally, like smart passive income is basically just passive income that's not dumb passive income. And by dumb, I mean something that actually works. Like there was always just passive income, but then the internet came along and there became all this like hype and all these false promises and too good to be true, scams and business opportunities and quasi investments that are packaged as a turnkey business or whatever. And the landscape got cluttered with a bunch of, I guess you call it dumb options for people that want passive income. And so smart passive income really just means things that aren't that stuff, but things that actually are legitimate. So that said, let's dig into what really are the legitimate types of smart passive income and how can you go get them. All right, so smart passive income. First of all, let's talk about what it is. Smart passive income basically means passive income, which if you're not, familiar with that term, means money that you don't have to keep working to earn. So eventually it starts coming in even if you're not spending time earning it. And what I would say constitutes smart passive income is essentially income that can, not only passes the passive income test, at least at some point. You might have to work to build it, but once it's built and set in motion, it gets easier and easier over time. But also, they can grow over time, right? Something that has an appreciation possibility. So we're talking things like real estate, where over time, your rents go up, right? Like year after year, you can raise your rents on rental properties. We're talking things like a digital business, an online business, which is, the thing I do the most of. I own some real estate too, and I've talked about that in some other videos. But for purposes of this video, we're going to primarily be talking about digital businesses. It's a business. It can grow over time. In fact, it should grow over time, if only because costs are growing over time via, inflation. And so if your revenue isn't growing over time, you're actually losing money over time. And then also there can be certain types of investments, like a stock that pays a dividend, right? Where theoretically you're buying a stock, not just because you believe in the underlying value of the stock is going to grow, and at some point you can sell the stock for a capital gain, but also there's a lot of companies that actually distribute their free cash every quarter or every year to their stockholders. And if you believe in the company and you believe that the cash position of the company is going to grow over time, then theoretically the dividend is going to grow over time, where you're not only capturing the growth in the underlying value of the stock, but you're getting increasing amounts of income over time as well. In my world, where I teach a lot of people about online business, and again, I do real estate too. I don't want to allow myself to be pigeonholed in the market as strictly an online guy, but for purposes of this discussion, when we're talking about digital business, the way I teach digital business is I try to actually combine the concepts of internet-based marketing and real estate, and I actually kind of coined a term of digital real estate. Well, my term digital real estate actually means, it has a lot of overlap with Pat Flynn's term of smart passive income. It basically means something that not only generates cash flow on an ongoing basis, but also that increases in value over time. And given that the value of an asset is based on the predictable future cash flows, if an asset is growing in value over time, theoretically the cash flows, or at least potential cash flows, are growing over time too. So whether you call it smart passive income, or if you're from my world and you call it digital real estate, it's really a very similar idea. It means something that not only generates you cash on an ongoing basis, not only something that you work to build, but ultimately it kind of can take on a life of its own. You don't have to keep trading time for the money, but also that it can grow over time. Let's talk about the types of businesses that, more specifically, that are likely to constitute smart passive income. With my digital real estate philosophy, I've kind of done the work of surveying all the online business models out there, and for my own purposes, first and foremost, selfishly, like I don't want to waste my time investing my time and energy and money on building stuff that's not going to eventually grow over time and give me leverage and be worth more than what I built. So frankly, you can cut away the vast majority of the things you see online that are talking about here's how to make money, or making money with Instagram, or making money with Facebook, or frankly, I would argue that Instagram and Facebook, both of them by definition, are pretty, unless you're running paid ads to grow an off-platform business, something where the business doesn't live on those platforms. If you're trying to make money on Instagram, it's probably not a digital real estate business or a smart passive income business, because think about it. Whatever you do on Instagram today, a week later, it's gone. Instagram's not still showing it in the feed. People coming to your profile aren't scrolling down to see what you posted a week ago or a month ago or whatnot, right? Instagram is like the opposite of the smart passive income or the digital real estate concept, because you really only get benefit on it, on the platform, out of what you're doing right now. So those types of business models I pretty much categorically reject, and I've really focused in on a few business models on the internet along with real estate as really the true smart passive income business models in the world. And I'll say it quite simply. It's affiliate marketing online. It's doing digital agency services where you're providing digital marketing services to local businesses. And then also it's doing any kind of like becoming your own information marketer, influencer, or course creator type of brand, right? So if you make a course on, how to teach yourself piano lessons, and you start running some ads to sell that course, over time, more people buy the course. They might refer other people to buy the course. You might be able to bring on affiliates to promote the course, and the course, it can kind of take on a life of its own. Those are the three business models I've seen that really have the highest likelihood of getting traction and growing naturally over time. Probably the one caveat that I would add to that is I do believe YouTube, this platform right here, is something that can build consistently over time. If you consistently put out good content, the value of that content does increase over time. But I wouldn't say that that's truly passive. It's kind of semi-passive, right? Like for me, I've put out a lot of videos on YouTube, and certainly I see the ad revenue grow, month over month on YouTube. But frankly, if I completely stopped taking care of my channel, it would likely start to taper off. So, and actually, I should say, if you hook affiliate links into YouTube videos, that allows YouTube to go from semi-passive to fully passive, because then if you just get one video that's optimized for a certain search term, and it has an affiliate link in the description, let's say, where somebody can click something and buy something, you can actually truly earn passive income on that for a very, very long time without having to keep nurturing it or keep producing more of it. I guess I should interrupt myself briefly to say, if you're not familiar with the concept of affiliate marketing, go watch any of my other videos on affiliate marketing. I've done a number of really exhaustive and intensive videos about that. But in general, I'll say, here's a quick definition, which is just affiliate marketing is when you use links to track referrals on the internet. So if somebody clicks your link and they buy somebody else's product through that link, you get a commission. It's just like a kickback for a referral. Only online, it's called affiliate marketing. Again, affiliate marketing, digital agency services, and that one's a little different, because initially you might have to actually get involved in doing some selling. But over time, and I know this from experience because I owned a digital agency for 6 years, and we scaled it really big, and we were on the Inc. 5000 multiple times and did tens of millions of dollars in sales. And the last 2 years I was at the agency, I hardly even came into the office. I literally counted in 2 years I came into the office 10 times, because I put systems and processes in place that turned that type of business model into a smart passive income business. And the reason for that is because it's a business that's primarily based around monthly recurring services. So you can reach a point where you're not having to constantly go out and acquire new customers. That's what allows it to become a passive business. So those are really the business models online. Again, I'll say them again: affiliate marketing, digital agency, any kind of course creation or information marketing, and you can couple that all with like content creation, like blogging and YouTube videos. But frankly, outside of that, I'm giving you permission to just ignore everything outside of that. There are hundreds of millions of dollars to be made in just those business models that I described. In fact, you put those together, you're talking about over $1 trillion industry online just doing those few things that I just mentioned. So go ahead and block out and ignore everything else as either not passive income or dumb passive income. The other thing that I want to talk about with the smart passive income concept is something that I call the phases of legacy. And that may sound kind of abstract, but it's basically just my way of trying to organize over time the development of a smart entrepreneur, really a smart passive income producing entrepreneur, because it's not always the same. And you don't just, again, business doesn't happen in the abstract. Business happens in the context of people's actual lives. So it's not enough to say, like people always say, well, imagine if you had a penny today and you doubled it tomorrow and you doubled it again the next day and you doubled it again the next day. And wouldn't that be great? You'd be a multimillionaire by the end of a month. And it's kind of like a brain scramble, right? To see how a penny can compound. But the reality is, if somebody gives you a penny and says, oh, we'll just reinvest it and double it, it takes a lot of pennies just to pay your bills, right? So it's not, again, it doesn't happen in the abstract. Like the first couple 100,000 pennies that you earn each month, they go to just paying your basic bills. So like we have to separate the abstraction of business and the mathematical theory of it with like what actually plays out in people's lives. And that's where I came up with this concept of the 3 phases of legacy, because the reality is you've got a runway. Maybe it's 50 years, it depends how old you are, right? Maybe you've only got 20 years till your life expectancy is up. Maybe you got 30 years left. Maybe you got 60 years left. Maybe you're a baby and you're going to live 80, 90 more years. But regardless is you have a finite amount of time. And in practical terms, you're trying to achieve a result of a certain size so that you can get to the end, or at least the final phase of your life, at a certain level of comfort and be able to actually enjoy what smart passive income is supposed to do for you, which is create some freedom, right? Nobody wants to work until the day they drop dead. So given those parameters, it's important to apply the mathematical, theoretical concepts of passive income online, but to frame them in the context of an actual human life. And this is where I came up with 3 phases of legacy. And you might as well just call it the 3 phases of getting rich. But these 3 phases, it's really important to look at your life, figure out where you are, how much time you likely have, and then try to chunk the phases, over the course of your life, and frankly, get through them as fast as possible. The goal is to get to the 3rd phase. So let me break this down and tell you what I mean. Phase 1 is the cash flow phase. You've got to have more cash flow. Everyone in the world has cash flow. My kids have cash flow. I give them an allowance, whatever per week, right? They don't have enough cash flow to live, but that's their cash flow. Everyone has cash flow. But in the cash flow phase, you need to have a significant increase in your cash flow. This is one of the hardest things for people to really wrap their mind around or to sort of deal with in practical terms in their life, is like they get these ideas and they're great ideas. Say, oh, I'm going to start a blog, or I'm going to start a YouTube channel, or I'm going to do whatever. Like for me, I've had this YouTube channel now for a couple of years. If I was trying to change my life with a YouTube channel, the first year, I didn't even make enough money from this YouTube channel to even cover the cost of like one editor that I had helping me with the videos. Fortunately, I had another business. I've already been through these phases of legacy, or these phases of wealth creation. So I was able to invest in building something upfront that had some upfront costs. But for the average person, like you've got to get your cash flow up fast, or else you're not going to have enough of a foothold or a foundation to be able to leap into the next phases. And where a lot of people are kind of putting their hopes and dreams is, I'm gonna kind of slowly grow my value over time, right? Like I'm gonna work hard, I'm gonna do my job, and I'm gonna get a 2 or 3 or 4% raise every year. Maybe I'll get a 5% bonus around the holidays or whatever. That's not moving the needle of the cash flow in your life nearly dramatically enough that if you plot the course of your life in the decade or 2 or 3 or 5 or however many that you have, it's not going to get you to the end goal that you likely need to be at in order to truly have generational wealth or legacy or the ultimate outcome that's going to, allow you to kind of cruise out your days on autopilot, right? You got to get more cash now. And you got to get, I should say, you've actually got to get more surplus now, which is the difference between what goes out and what comes in. So I recommend you do both. I recommend you clamp down your expenses as much as possible, and you press the gas on your income as much as possible. Start a side hustle, start taking on extra jobs, do whatever you can. I think I get a lot of younger people that watch my stuff. So to the 15-year-olds, the 20-year-olds, 25-year-olds, 30-year-olds out there, you do not have time to wait to make a lot more money. Not if you want to retire, and be able to take care of your great-grandkids when you're 75 years old, right? So, take on extra work, clamp down your expenses, get that cash flow surplus as big as possible, as fast as possible, and then, and really only then, should you be out there looking to invest into the next phase, which is the growth phase. And the growth phase is about taking the cash flow surplus, which is awesome, but it's also very effort-based, right? It's based on doing more now to get more now, and also spending less now to cost less now. It's all very action-based, like in real time. So you want to take that surplus and convert it into growth, which starts to give you a pad of predictability. I call it taking your cash flow and making it predictable, bankable, and sellable, right? Predictable meaning I know that regardless of my efforts tomorrow, there's going to be at least some predictability that this cash flow is going to repeat. Bankable meaning I could go to a bank and show them with some confidence that they can expect this cash flow to continue such that they would give me a loan. And a lot of people don't like banks, and I'm not saying go out and get a loan for no reason, but it's a really good kind of heuristic measure of your own cash flow security to say, would a bank loan me money on the basis of this cash flow? A bank's not going to loan you money simply on the basis that you make an extra $10,000 a month at your job, because they're going, well, what if you get fired? That doesn't mean you can pay back the loan. They're going to loan you money on the basis of a cash flow surplus that's bankable, that's predictable, that's secured by underlying assets that are producing the cash flow that aren't going to wake up sick tomorrow and not be able to do the job, right? That's how banks think. They're risk averse. So you're wanting to make your cash flow predictable, bankable, and ultimately sellable. Because remember, the value of an asset is the size of future cash flows, it's the duration of future cash flows, and it's the certainty around future cash flows, right? If you can show on paper that X cash flow is likely to continue at X level for X period of time with X degree of certainty, there's a mathematical formula that says, okay, that's the value of that cash flow, and somebody will buy it, right? So you'll know that you've gotten into this second phase when your cash flow is predictable, bankable, and sellable. I'll use my agency as an example, right? So I had an agency. This is how I did it. When I started as an affiliate marketer. I made a lot of money as an affiliate marketer, but frankly, I had to keep driving the traffic in order to keep making the money. Nobody would have paid me for that cash flow. But when I took that cash flow and I used it to start an agency, now I went out and got businesses signed up to pay me for monthly marketing services. Eventually, I had a book of a couple thousand businesses that were paying me for monthly services. I literally sold that. I went to another company and said, hey, I've got this customer list. You can see what the churn rate is. You can see the decay. You can see how fast the customers are falling off. And realistically, you can look at this book of business and forecast what's the next year going to look like, the next 2 years, the next 3 years, the next 5 years. They did a math formula, came up with a multiple, and they paid me for the cash flow. That's what made it a growth business. And then the third phase, finally, is the wealth or legacy phase. And this is where you're converting your cash flow into what I call generational assets, things that you can literally easily put into a trust and leave to your family where they continue to produce cash flow. But frankly, they're more valued and there's more of an emphasis around the underlying asset value, not just the cash flow. Like my agency, it was a cash flow business. The only value in the business was based on the future cash flows. There wasn't like an underlying brick of gold or, a warehouse full of inventory or something that could be liquidated on eBay. No, it was just either there's cash flow and there's value, or there's no cash flow and there's no value. Whereas take a house, for example. A house, if you have a renter, there's cash flow. But if you have no renter, there's no cash flow, but there's still value because it's a house, right? That's the wealth or legacy phase. So think about it in terms of your life. Look at the time that you have, look at the options that you have, and say, okay, first of all, what am I going to do to generate cash flow surplus? Then what am I going to do to take that cash flow surplus and make it predictable, bankable, and sellable? And the reason we call that growth phase is because as cash flow becomes more predictable, the value of the cash flow grows. And then what am I going to do to take my predictable cash flow and convert it into generational assets that actually still have value even independent of the cash flow? I hope that's a valuable breakdown for you. If that totally blew your mind, this is probably a good opportunity for me to suggest that maybe you'd like to go through my Entre Blueprint course, where we get into much more detail about both the business models that I talked about as constituting digital real estate or smart passive income business models, but also the conceptual models of how you apply this stuff and use it to grow and improve the quality of your life. There should be a link for that in the description below this video. And that's what I have to say about smart passive incomes. Look, smart passive income is amazing, but you got to be smart about how you go out and get it and have a really informed lens that you look through so that you don't do, frankly, what happens sadly to most people on the internet who want passive income, which is you get ripped off and you fall for a bunch of scams because the things that sound too good to be true, look, you're on the internet. You got to realize when you're on the internet, you're basically high. Like the internet is so built around these quick dopamine hits that are flipping all the switches in your brain. You're literally a malfunctioning circuit board all the time when you're on the internet. So you have to guard against that and go, well, I'm insane right now, so I probably shouldn't buy that, right? Like really, really put your guard up and be smart about the passive income opportunities that you pursue online. Thanks for your time. If you've enjoyed this, please do subscribe to my channel or give the video a like, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Take care.